Casey.
I can see you, but you're not doing anything.
Hello.
Right now, the camera's just moving around. I hear you say, can you hear me? There must be a delay. But there's a delay. Go ahead.
We'll give it a couple more minutes. I know my internet connection has come up, but shout out to Facebook for being on time. Thanks for tuning in, Brandy. Always the first person to comment. Cars.
It's, oh, yes, you can go. It's buffering. Yes, but go ahead.
All right, today we're going to talk a little bit about this car purchase. Car owning, financing, leasing. What's going to be the best way to go? So first we're going to tackle this whole purchase idea. By number one, everyone knows the dealer is really not your friend. And to understand why they're not your friend is understand where their profit comes from. So if you buy a warranty from a dealer, if you buy Gap from a dealer, these are products that they add into a loan purchase. These are things, that's how they make their money. Interest rates. They control a lot of that interest rate. So before we even do that, we need to go back and do our homework. First, before going to a dealer, go online, look for the car, use cars.com, use your bank's website, do a Google search. Understand that what you want to pay, you can find it. It takes negotiation, it takes saving, it takes knowing how this whole price is built for you to get the best deal out of this car. But most importantly, the less you pay on that car, the more money you get to keep in the long term. So first, go online, shop for a car, go to a dealer that you're never going to buy a car from, and test drive the car. Second, in order to negotiate, you have to have options. The dealer will not respect you. They will not tell you what they can do. And in fact, the salesperson, you don't even want to talk to him. You want to talk to the finance manager. You want to talk to the person at the end of the day when you put that deal in front of you. That's who's manipulating these numbers. That's who's putting it down. So first, we're going on paper. What we're going to do is we're going to say, first of all, yeah, I did my homework. What's my budget? What's my budget for this car? How do I figure out what my budget is? Well, the average price, the average salary is about $50K in the US. So industry dictates about 10 to 12% of your salary is what you should be paying for in a car a year. But what's built into that price? So if you take $50K and spread it across 12 months, you'll get about $500 for a car payment. But the fact is, there's more into that $500 that you need to consider. What's the insurance? How much is gas and oil changes for the year? All that needs to roll up to your car payment. And then once you subtract that out, hey, that will give you your true number for what you should be paying for a car. Second, we always talk about, hey, what's the credit? What is your credit look like? What type of loan will you be approved for? You don't want to get into a long-term deal about these loans because, again, if you think about my previous video, it's all about how fast can I pay this loan off. You want to buy a car and the max you want to pay it off in 2 years. So if you got a 5-year loan, which is 60 months, you want to pay it off in 2 years. How do you pay it off in 2 years? You have to budget, you have to save. And a lot of times, what about that person who I just got into this car? Or I need this car to go to work. Everyone can't save for that. And I get that. So what we do is, if you're going to get a car loan, you get a really cheap, reliable, used car. Used. Why do I say used? Well, industry standard dictates 11% of that car value drops as soon as you drive it off the lot. So if you think that's a joke, go look at a 2019 right now. And then flip, go look at a 2018. I know I had someone recently do that, and they saved them $20,000. Why? That's just the car constantly depreciates. And if you know it's going to depreciate, you're always going to lose. So what you're trying to do is control the loss in this whole expense. So we're going to go online. That's first. We always want to go online. Second, we want to test drive the car at a dealership that we're not going to plan to buy from. It'll help if you bought the car out of town, but we're going to buy the car used, number 3, and then we're going to look at financing. Well, how do we know what financing is? If you have about a 680 score, you can pretty much get what we call best terms. Best terms means lowest rate. At a 60-month, the lowest rate on the industry right now is probably about 1.9. So if you have at least a 720 or higher, you should be paying about a 1.9 on your loan. If not, you should be refinancing that loan. Now the catch to this is any bank in your particular area or your particular region may not offer that 1.9. So this means you may need to go outside of your state. You need to think outside the box. You can access many different rates through bankrate.com. So if you got a 720 or higher, if you got a 680, you should have what we call negotiable terms. The other thing is the dealer can get you a good negotiable rate. But the fact is, when we're going in to negotiate, oftentimes we leave it at the price of the car and not the rate. As I stated before, dealers make their profit from gap, mechanical breakdown, all the extras that they can get you to buy. It's a bonus for them if you can actually finance with them. If you finance with them, they already have these predetermined rates with lenders. And oftentimes, if you're constantly listening to, hey, what do you want your payment to be? What do you want your payment to be? That's their way of understanding how much more they can charge you. So if we're not talking payment, we're talking price. And we're not talking price of the car, we're talking out the door price. If you ever look at a sheet from a dealer's, they have many different sections. They have a finance section. They have a interest rate section. They have, hey, this is how much you pay for the car. And then they have, after you pay for the car, you got document fee. You got state taxes. You got all these different things that they add in. And then at the way bottom, oh, this is the price of your car. So, for example, you could pay $20,000 for the car, which is what you negotiated, but by the time you get to the end of the price, you're at $25,000, $26,000. Does that make any sense? That puts you way under. Although your note may be the same. Well, why is your note the same? Because you're concentrated on the payment. And next to that payment, it tells you how long you're going to keep the note. So the average car payment right now is about $500 a month, and it goes for about 69 months. 69 months is, you might as well round that to about 7 years. So that's how dealers get you in. They get you focused on the payment. Then after they get you focused on the payment, they can stretch this thing out as long as they want to, up to 84 months, and I've seen even 96. But when they do that, they're adding in all their extras. They're adding in everything that you didn't want. $3,000-$4,000 for a warranty, $800-$900 for a gap. It's not worth it. Not saying those products aren't good. I truly believe in gap. I paid for it. I truly believe in warranty, and I especially believe in a warranty. If you don't have the money in the bank to cover for a repair, you do need to pay for some sort of coverage in case of emergency, because it is going to rain and it is going to pour. So, but you don't have to overspend for these things. You can go to a local credit union. You can go to a lot of other places and pay for very good quality products for the gap, for the warranty. You can pay out of pocket cash, and you can pay at minimal cost, about a third of the price, just by getting it through a credit union or a financial institution. That's where dealers make their money. So we're going to go back a little bit to the beginning. Purchase. First thing you want to do, we're going to go online. We're going to go shopping online. That's how we're going to find the best deal. Second, we're going to look for a used car, about 2 to 3 years old. You always want to look for the used car, because that's how you're going to validate, and that's what's going to give you your options, so that when you do want to get another car, or this car gets a little bit too old and you paid it off but you want a little trade in, that's what's going to give you all these things, so that you can have a little bit more leverage and negotiation power when you talk to the dealer. Third, you want to set a budget. You have to set a budget for this car. But including that budget, you want to take about 10%. I say err on the conservative end, 10% of your take-home pay. And then you want to subtract out what is gas for this vehicle a year, what is insurance for this vehicle a year. You want to subtract all those things out so that you can get the true cost of what can you truly afford. And it's okay if it's just a Honda, or it's okay if it's just a Corolla. It's something dependable. You're not going to have this car all your life. The average person goes about 6 to 7 cars in their lifetime. So you'll have time to get that fancy car. But we want to get you the best deal. And you want to follow this process, because the less you pay on this one, then it gives you more power to start saving cash. And then the next time you buy a car, you're buying cash, and you eliminate this expense for real. So the goal is to pay for this item, because it is going to be a must-have. Everyone's going to need a car. You got to get back and forth to work. You got to do things. But also you don't want to overspend for it. Just simply and plain, you really don't want to overspend for this thing. So next, you're going into the purchase. What does negotiation look like? Well, for me, I've always set a standard of, at least, without talking to anyone, $3,000 comes off the price of that car when I walk in the door, just for me coming in here. So call it a goodwill gesture, call it, hey, I think I'm special. I don't care what you call it. $3,000 should come off that price of that car just for you showing up today. Second, we talked about the negotiation power. You have to take a screenshot when you're going looking for these cars online. Take a screenshot of what you see. The dealer doesn't care where the car is. They care about you buying their car. Then, when you get into negotiating, you want to use everything you have. So if you have a trade-in and if you have cash, these are the very last 2 items in a negotiation conversation. Renata, it's called find a used car. So going back to negotiation. So the first thing, you want to know your price. Second, $3,000. As soon as you go in, they need to be talking $3,000 less than the price, just for you coming up, just for you being there today. Because I know inherently there's never been a time someone's went to the dealer, got what they call a good deal, and they haven't spent more than 30 minutes. Third, if you have a trade-in or if you have cash, these are the very last items that you pull out to tell the dealer. The dealer doesn't need to know if you have cash. They do not need to know if you have a trade-in. And it's important that you understand what order these things should come in. So I'm going into the dealer. Hey, Mr. Dealer, got me a $25,000 car with the sticker price. First thing I'm telling you, that car needs to be $22,000 off the bat. Okay, we're going to go back and forth. Well, why does that car need to be $22,000? Well, I can pull up a car that I found out that's just like this one, that might have a little bit of mileage more or a little bit mileage less, but it's $22,000. So that's where you need to, number one, meet me at price, first of all. Second, if they accept that far, you want to go up to the second step. Second, I have a trade-in. Okay, what's your trade-in? Now, trade-ins are a little bit tricky because sometimes you might owe on the trade-in. But if you're at a dealer, you can negotiate up your trade-in. So say you owe $15,000 for your car and the car is only worth $13,000. I would be asking them for the price of that loan so you can come out at zero. So now we're going back to our example, $22,000 price. I got a trade-in. How much is for your trade-in? Oh, it's $15,000. They don't know. They're going to ask you for this information. So if you don't tell them, they don't know. So say we get to that level. Good. I'll buy your trade-in. All right. Lastly, what's the price of this car? We're looking at 22, but after we add in these fees and things of that nature, no, sir. I'm not saying 22 for the car. I'm saying 22 for the bottom price. Remember, bottom price. It only matters. I don't care what numbers they put in front of you. Only thing that matters is my out the door price. So at the end of the day, my out the door price is the bottom number. Lastly, on this example, what do we do with after the $22,000? Well, I didn't sell my trade in, and then for you, maybe you're still good. You're good with the price. You're good with everything, but maybe you have a little bit more cash. It's at that point that you have to decide in your head, is it worth for me, if I have $5,000 in my pocket, is it worth for me to save about 20 or 50 bucks on this loan or keep my cash? So for me, I'm not going to be going for debt. I'm going to say put the $5,000 in the car. So the lower you want to get rid of this debt, again, 1 to 2 years, you want to get rid of this debt. If you got $5,000, go ahead and get rid of it into the car. Obligate yourself to less. So I do want to go to refinance, but I'm seeing questions and things of that nature. So I'll address that as much as I can. I can't really scroll down on this. Actually, I can. Thank you. Just real quick, let me know if you had any questions as we're going. I know for those who coming on late, purchasing the price of a car, number one, I want to go online and I want to scour the country to find the best deal. And from that, I want to find the lowest price. And I want to screenshot that because when I go to the dealer, I have to be able to back up what I talk. So what if I get thrown a wrench, Jonathan? Wrench like what? We're not going to negotiate. Well, if they're not going to negotiate, learn to walk away. That car will come up any other time. You can get that car anywhere. There's so many. They made millions of them. You can walk away. The power of walking away will have the dealer chasing you. Because if they really want to sell that car, you'll get called back in a week. And when you get called back in a week, that price should be going down and down and down. But keep in mind, you had to walk away. We could have did this deal a week or so ago. But because I have to walk away or because I have to come back up there now, that means they have to pay. They have to pay for your time. So remember, if they're not talking on the terms and deals that you want, meaning the price, and let's take a look at this interest rate. What is the interest rate? So if you're getting a double figure interest rate, you're paying too much. No matter where you go, if you're paying a double figure interest rate, meaning 10 or more, that takes you into what we call subprime lending, meaning lenders who know that they don't have any ability. Lenders know that it's likely you will default on this loan. That's why the interest rate is so high. Well, maybe that's your only option. Well, then if that's the only option, in 6 months, you need to flip the car loan. 6 months is industry standard. Now, if you're someone there are two people in this scenario. If you're someone who's always had a car loan and always paid on time, you can flip a car into refinancing within a month or 30 days or within the next week. It's not going to make a difference. But if you've never had a car loan, if you've never made those payments, you have to have at least 6 to 8 months worth of payments before someone will want to take that on. Not saying that you won't get a good rate, but that's what they call building history. So really think about this subprime lending aspect because the more you spend on this thing, meaning you could buy a $12,000 car at a 17+% rate, and you'll double the price of that car over the term of 60+ months. It's not worth it. No car is worth that. No car at any point is worth double. Think about that. You're telling them, hey, I like this car so much that it's double. And usually when they sell you these cars, it might be a 2018, 2017, something that has no options. You don't even have a backup camera, or you have to roll down your windows. I mean, really, in 2018, you have to roll down your windows in this car. Is that really worth it to pay double for? It doesn't really matter how you feel about the car or anything. It's simple fact. Is it worth paying double for? So when you think about this subprime lending, we think about, hey, let's refinance 6 months. Well, there again, how do I find a good rate? I talked about this in my last video. Your bank is your partner. Your credit union is your partner. Anybody that you do financial business with is your partner. So with all the apps, with all the information that these banks provide now, with knowing your credit score and understanding that, you can call anyone and build out your scenario. You can call someone and tell them, hey, I know my score is about 680, 690. What would the interest rate be on this card? This is how much I owe. How much would the payment be? That's all free information that you can get from any lender without them ever pulling your credit. And then you can make what we call an educated, informed decision. That's important for you. It's not going to do you any good to try with 15 different lenders when you can run this without any credit impact. And then when you do decide to make the credit impact, you're making a good decision about who you decide to give your business to. Let's really think about that when you refinance. Second piece, when you refinance, you're saying, I want to pay a bank B before I want to pay bank A. So if you're paying bank A 15% and then bank B offers you a rate of 10%, you're saying, I'd rather pay bank B at 10% for this car than I'd rather pay bank A at 15%. Refinance doesn't automatically dictate that your note will drop. So if you're a higher credit tier, maybe you're 720 higher, you got a 5% and you drop down to a 2. You made significant strides. You're not paying hardly anything for the car, but you will not really see the impact in the note. And don't think that you refinance and you automatically had to get a lower monthly payment. The whole thing that matters is finance charge. Keyword in all of this, what you're paying for the car is not the $20,000 for the car. It's $20,000 plus what's the next number? Finance charge, finance charge, finance charge. If you understand the finance charge, you understand what you're paying. You take control of, hey, that might be the thing that stops you when you're doing the deal. Hey, I was all in love with this car. Everything was great. Then I saw the number. Yep, it's $20,000. Great. But then I look at the finance charge and it's about 10, 15%. And then I look at how much I'm paying in the finance charge and I'm paying about the same amount that I'm paying for the actual car. Well, I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm gonna back away for a second and I'm gonna go back and do my homework. So finance charge, you have to pay attention to this because all these different terms and figures, if you've ever looked at your bill of sale, and I encourage everyone to go look at their bill of sale for the car they bought, you will be surprised, number one, how light the ink is on these terms. Second, it's light because they really don't want you to see it. Because any logical person that saw these numbers and saw what was happening, they would not be happy with that. So understand that, hey, finance charge, what I'm paying bank A, I don't want to pay bank A 15%. I don't want to pay them 10%. I want to pay as low as I can get it. And understand what your economy dictates. 680 plus right now can pretty much dictate any loan that they're trying to get. And if you don't have a 680 plus, that's great. That's fine. It's not saying you can't buy the car, but we might need to buy a little less car. So Next, with the refinance, everything, say I'm in the same scenario, I'm leaving bank A and I'm going to bank B. Well, let's think back, because a lot of you, you didn't talk with me before you did this purchase. So I can pretty much guess that a lot of you personally, and I've seen it many times when I'm dealing with clients, you guys pay for these warranties that cost $3,000 and $4,000. Well, when you decide to go off and do another loan, or when you decide to do a refinance, you're forfeiting money. So if you pay for gap, the moment that loan is paid off, you just left that money on the table. Well, that's money that you can, number one, help get that emergency fund, get back in place if you don't have $1,000, or that's money you can use to put to the principal to the new loan. Then, so number one, you want to cancel that. You want to cancel the gap on that loan. So if I'm going to refinance, the next thing I'm doing after refinancing is calling my dealer that I bought this car from and canceling that warranty. I'm canceling that gap too. Why? Because a warranty I can go buy from my credit union or another bank for half the cost. And the gap, because once you pay that loan off, the gap is lost. So it's better you get that money back and apply it to the principal, or put it in your savings account to give you a little bit of extra cushion. So that's refinancing. We got another question?
Mm-hmm. From Brandy.
So before I go into leasing, Brandy, I have a friend that is upside down. What is the best solution for them? Good credit score, refinance, or get another car? Well, it kind of depends on how far they're upside down, first of all. Second, if it's really a matter of like $1,000 to $3,000, you can pretty much talk the dealer out of that. That's just fact. You can pretty much talk. Everyone has the ability to talk the dealer out about $1,000 to $3,000. Second, if they're upside down, the fact is, realize there are some cases where I just made a mistake. I got a bad deal. And sometimes we might have to actually eat their cost. So the most flexibility you'll get is if you go to a big name dealer. So don't go to a CarMax. CarMax has decent cars, but understand CarMax, when they're evaluating these actual deals and these cars, and when they're giving values for these cars, they're giving the values based off what they've been able to sell. And everyone who has ever been to a CarMax knows that, hey, they're not going to haggle. But I digress. If they have a decent credit score, it means somebody will be willing to roll that debt over. But the best thing they can do for themselves is actually go ahead and eat that cost. And like I said, depending on how much they're upside down, then that will determine what she needs to do. Because like I said, if it's about $1,000 to $3,000, you can pretty much talk the dealer out of that. But the only thing about it is, understand everything that you talk to the dealer about, you can see on the paper. You can see on the bill of sale. So if you struggle, in the case or the example that I shared about, we're trading in a car and you said, hey, you're supposed to give me $15,000 for this car. Well, on that bill of sale, you should be able to see, hey, the dealer gave me $15,000 for this car. It will tell you what they gave you for the trade. And if it's not, well, you kind of caught them up. You have to go back and retool and revisit and have some more conversation. So I hope that answers your question a little bit, Brandy. But the most important thing is, it really does depend on how much she has upside down, because people, in any negotiation, you're just not going to be able to get everything you want. Now, if you can get them to eat some of that cost, and then you just understand, hey, I need to pay a little bit more to the principal to bring this thing back in value. But regardless, again, if we're looking at things from 2 years, this car is paid off. It's not going to matter if the car is upside down, sideways, backwards. It doesn't really matter, because you're going to pay it off anyway. That's the goal. Not to have a car note, not to have a payment. No payments mean you can build wealth. No payments mean you can build wealth. You don't always have to have a car payment. You don't always have to have a car payment. Despise that. Write it down. Burn it in your mind. Car payments is not a must. That is not a must. But if you do, because there are situations where people just have to have cars for work or they're just in a tight spot, I get it. You can't save up the cash to go get it. I understand. Get something that you can finance 60 months and pay off in 2 years. Finance 60 months, 60, and pay off in 2 years. Lastly, we're going to talk a little bit about the whole leasing. Leasing, the one big way to lose money on a vehicle. But I will say, I had a client recently. She had about 15%, she was paying 15% on her car loan. And what we found out was, as we did the math and as we looked at her plan and as we looked at her budget, it was simpler and it was more cost effective for her to actually go to a lease than to continue buying this car out. She would have paid less. And the reason why I actually was okay with this was young girl was paying north of about $380 a month in the car payment. The lease dropped the note about $50. But most importantly, in 3 years, she will have ran up the cash to, number one, hand the keys back to this lease to the car dealer. Second, she will have been able to pay cash for what she considers her dream car. So in that particular scenario, because of how much she was actually paying and how far she was into that interest rate, and because they paid completely free, completely total, she negotiated them to come up on the payoff of her car where she didn't have debt owed and it wasn't carryover and it wasn't putting negative equity in the new car. That was the one isolated incident where I felt like, okay, a lease is okay. But my normal go-to lease is not okay. It's never okay because you'll end up paying more. This is the way the dealer is committing highway robbery. They're getting you to buy this car at $4 and $5 and $6 above what the price of the car is. And then when you get done with all the actual structure, so most leases you can only drive about 12,000 miles in a year. There's a lot of different fees into it. But the average person drives about 15,000 a year. And then on top of that, anything that happens to this car, you're still responsible for. So when you think about leasing, it's always better to own. It's always better to own. Before anything else, if you can own the car and then that car can give you at least another 3, possibly 4 years. 4 years without a car note, that's more than enough time to go save up the money that you would like and pay for what you want cash. This is honestly one of the most biggest expenses on everyone's budget, even including myself. I paid off my car early in the year just because I wasn't upset. I had a good interest rate and all that. But as I looked at it and I really started to think about it, $300 and something, I'm pretty sure I could do something else with it. I'm pretty sure I could be maybe a good husband for the month and buy my wife something or take her somewhere, or maybe I can invest it for my child's future, whatever. The point is $300 is a lot to pay for a car note. And the average car note right now is $500. And we all know everyone's not driving a Mercedes, a Audi, or a Porsche or Land Rover. People aren't buying those cars. That $500 can be simply a Toyota at a 17% interest rate. It's very important that you understand going into this and be educated on the process of what it looks like to actually buy a car. Anyone can negotiate. At the end of the day, you're not forced to do anything that you don't want to do. So they can say that you wasted their time. They can hold you a different way. And just for kicks, I would encourage anytime you're going to go buy something of this magnitude, I encourage everyone, because I do it myself, and it does actually work. Dress as low as you can. So if you have ripped jeans, or if you, my wife makes fun of me, I have holes in my socks. I like to do that. I like to go with holes in my socks with the same old sweatpants with a wave cap and maybe some earrings, and I'll go to a Cadillac dealership and I'll ask them to buy a car. And if they're willing to do a deal for me, number one, I know I can they're not assuming I got the money, but I can start dealing with some wiggle room. So I'm at the end. of my little take. I want to give you guys a few pointers. Again, I'm always available via inbox, jthomassolutions@outlook.com. Please feel free to reach out. The goal of all this is to help you be a little bit more financially set. Let's really, really, really win with money. The more you win, the more you'll understand life a whole lot better when money is not the forefront of your thoughts. So meaning money is robbing, what I say, your creativity. I have a lot of people, and I appreciate everyone who likes or shares or comments and posts. I appreciate all that. But most importantly, I really got to help you guys understand, and I want you to understand, when you let money consume and this debt consume your life, consumer debt, paying for credit cards, paying for car loans, it's robbing of your creativity. It's robbing you of just happiness and enjoying your life. And so before I actually log off, anybody have any questions? And just for kicks, Renata, on the purchase thing, I'll go through it one more time. Number one, we want to go online. We want to go online and scour Google. Going online is the laziest way to look for a car. It's the laziest way to look for a car. So you want to go online and you want to screenshot the best price. Why? Because if you go to a dealer, you want to be able to prove what you're stating. That's your why. And as long as you have that in your back pocket, you can say, hey, I really like this car, but you're right here, so I want to go ahead and give you the benefit of the doubt. If they're trying to sell you the car, they'll drop the price. If not, well, this is America. This is the land of electronics and all these different things. You can call that dealer that you have the screenshot for, and they'll send you the car for that price. That's how these things work. Just because it's out of state don't mean they will not get that car to your front door. That's how good these deals can be. It gives you buying power. It gives you the walk away effort. It means that, hey, it's the same concept as a job. You get more from a job. You get more from your raise. You get more from anything when you have options on the side. So that's what we're doing. We're creating options for you so that if the dealer's not talking what you want to hear, who doesn't want to give you the price of the car, then we walk away. Second, after we scour the country, we look at our budget. We look at, hey, how much car can I actually afford? About 10% of your take-home pay. And you want to add in, what does gas look like for this car? What does oil changes look like for this car? What does insurance look like for this car for the year? And you subtract that out, and then that's what monthly payment you can really afford. Because the goal is 60 months, pay it off in 2 years. The goal is 60 months, pay it off in 2 years. Why do we pay it off in 2 years? Because we do not want a car note. We want cash, but understand that as you get into this budgeting thing, we have to realize there were mistakes made before we got clean. So as we're cleaning up our budget and as we're moving forward, we're going to get ourselves really, really ready so that next time we can pay cash. Third, I want to go in and I want to find financing at the lowest terms. So I'm going to reach out to my credit union. I'm going to reach out to my bank. I'm going to tell them, hey, I got this score. This is a score I'm looking at from a TransUnion aspect. That's generally what most people are reporting. And I'm going to ask them, hey, what's the rate I'm getting on this? And if that rate, if I'm a 680 or higher, and I'm not finding any place in my local community, well, then I'm going to get on the internet and I'm going to go start searching that way. And I guarantee you, just because someone is out of state doesn't mean you can't finance with them. There's plenty of people that when you go to the dealership, they're saying, hey, you get to finance with AeroPoint or some place you ain't never heard of. That's because it's possible. You can get these good rates. You don't have to be in the same town. You don't have to be the same town as where you're purchasing. You don't have to be in the same town as the dealer. You don't have to be in the same town to do anything. That's the beauty of the way our economy works right now. But it gives you buying power. But if you don't use that to your best advantage, then you're not going to maximize on the purchase. And you're not going to put yourself in a good in a good situation going forward. So yeah, used car. We're looking at a used car. We're scouring the country about 2 to 3 years old. Number two, we're looking at our budget. We're adding in the fact that it's going to be gas, insurance, and oil changes throughout the year. Number three, if we have to finance, we're scouring the country We're talking to our banks and credit unions without them pulling our credit, and we're trying to find out what it is. And then 4, we're going into the dealer and we're ready to talk numbers. I don't want you to drive the car at the dealer that you are going to buy the car from, because that takes away your buying power. If you test drive the car, once you drove one, you drove them all. They're not going to drive any different. But once you get in that car and you leave, and then, take it home and all this, those are all ploys to get you to buy the car higher. So, like I said, lastly, refinance. I'm sorry, the second thing, refinance. We're refinancing. When we're refinancing, we're saying, hey, I choose to pay Bank B less than I choose to pay Bank A for this car, for borrowing the money for this car. So if I borrow $20,000 and at a 15% rate from Bank A, then I'm going to Bank B to pay 10% for that $20,000 instead. That's what I'm saying. And in the case of, hey, I got a 5%, which is a good rate, but hey, I want to drop down to a 2 or 1.9. Well, I'm not looking at my monthly payment. I'm looking at how much my finance charge dropped, because now I know instead of paying $2,000 or $3,000 for the car, I'm paying about $1,000. That's, you know what I mean, what that means. Finance charge. Those are key words for you. Finance charge, gap, mechanical breakdown, mechanical coverage, all those different things. If you have an emergency fund, you don't need those out. If you don't have an emergency fund, I would suggest probably getting that. And the reason for it, it'll help protect you as you're going through, because accidents will happen. When it rains, it pours. Lastly, leasing. Don't do it. Increases the cost of the car about $6,000. It's not worth it. No car is worth that. That $6,000, that you could have put that $6,000 on a whole new car and paid on an $18,000 car and paid $12,000. It's not worth it. Don't pay the $6,000. Don't borrow your car and keep borrowing. You want to own your car. You want it to be an asset. And when I say an asset, I'm not saying it has to be worth something. I'm saying you can drive it daily and not have a car note, and it's helping you not buy a car note. So you're saving that money. You're keeping it. You're investing it. You're doing other things with it. And then lastly, you don't have to have a car note. You don't have to have a car note. Life without a car note is very, very good. It's incredible. When you look at your bills and you start eliminating, you get your stuff down, and that's how you build wealth. You decrease your expenses. So if you don't have a car note, if you don't have credit cards, if you don't have a mortgage, if you don't have a personal loan, a payday loan, if you don't have all these things, what does your life look like? What does your salary actually look like? That's your true basis. And then that's where you can grow. But you don't have to have a car note. Dispel that myth. Get rid of the car. Finance it 60 months, pay off in 2 years. Finance it 60 months, pay off in 2 years. Again, I appreciate you guys coming in and listening to me. I know it's Monday night. I know you have time to be with your family and enjoy your dinner. Tune in. Next month, I think I want to talk about engagement rings and tell a little bit about my story. So until that time, talk to you soon, guys.